The Bears are no longer building a foundation, they're adding the final pieces to a championship puzzle. Welcome back to Bears News Fan Report, your home for the most comprehensive coverage, breaking updates, and insider analysis on our beloved Chicago Bears. I'm here to walk you through something that's been developing as we approach the 2026 draft. A strategic shift in how this organization views roster construction. And by the end of this breakdown, you're going to understand exactly why the 7th round might hold the key to unlocking our defensive potential in ways nobody's talking about yet. This involves a player with physical traits we haven't seen at his position in years. Someone who could become the steal of the entire draft class. Stay locked in because this is information every Bears fan needs to hear. Let me paint the picture of where we are as a franchise right now, because understanding the present is crucial to appreciating what's coming next. The Chicago Bears have spent the last 2 off-seasons methodically constructing a roster that's built to compete, not just participate. We're not in rebuilding mode anymore, we're in reinforcement mode. And that distinction changes everything about how we approach personnel decisions. The objective has shifted from laying groundwork to strengthening premium positions, adding purposeful depth, and protecting ourselves against the kind of regression or injury issues that derail contending teams. We're staring down postseason football on the horizon with a roster that finally has tangible shape and structure. That's not wishful thinking, that's the reality of where this team stands after years of smart drafting and strategic free agency moves. But here's what separates good organizations from great ones. They never stop improving, they never get complacent, and they always identify the next opportunity to get better before problems arise. As we look ahead to April and the 2026 draft, the Bears' strategy becomes crystal clear when you study the landscape. This draft class is loaded with talent at positions where we need either immediate starters or quality depth pieces that can develop into contributors. The Bears are projected to be picking at number 25 overall in the first round, a position that historically yields impact players who can step in and produce right away. That's not a rebuilding pick, that's a win-now selection. The offensive line remains a priority despite having some excellent pieces already in place. Joe Thuney, Drew Dalman, and Jonah Jackson form a solid interior, and Darnell Wright is locked in at right tackle. But left tackle continues to be an area where we haven't found that long-term answer. Theo Benedette has struggled when called upon, and Ozzy Trapilo, our 2025 Day 2 pick, is still developing and hasn't shown he's ready to be the guy yet. You can't go into a championship season with question marks at such a critical position. The smart money is on the Bears targeting someone like Caleb Lomu from Utah at 25 overall. Lomu isn't a flashy name that's going to get casual fans excited, but he represents exactly the type of investment that keeps elite offensive lines elite for multiple seasons. He brings size, athleticism, and a physical mentality that matches what we've been building up front. Plug him in at left tackle next to our established veterans, and suddenly you're looking at one of the best offensive lines in football, protecting our quarterback and opening lanes for our running game. But the first round is just the beginning of how the Bears can capitalize on this draft. Round 2 at pick 57 gives us another chance to add immediate impact, and the edge rusher position makes perfect sense there. We need to continue building waves of pass rush pressure rather than relying on any single dominant player. Hakeem Mesidor from Miami has been flying under the radar playing alongside Ruben Bain, but his tape shows a big, long, powerful edge defender who consistently wins in the ACC. Adding him to our rotation would give defensive coordinator another weapon to deploy in passing situations. The third round brings even more intrigue with cornerback Keontae Scott from Miami at pick 89. Scott is one of those rising prospects who just makes plays regardless of where you line him up. The Bears have already tapped into the Miami pipeline successfully with Tariq Stevenson, and Scott brings that same versatile profile where he can play nickel, outside corner, or even drop into a safety-like role in sub-packages. His instincts for finding the football and making his presence felt are exactly what modern defenses need. Now we're getting into the middle rounds, where teams separate themselves by identifying value that others miss. Round 4 at pick 131 could see the Bears addressing a critical need in the trenches with someone like David Okey from Arkansas. This is a big man who brings legitimate run-stuffing ability to the interior defensive line. In the NFC North, where physical football still matters and division games are won in the trenches, having a space eater who can occupy blockers and keep linebackers clean is absolutely essential. Okey might never put up huge sack numbers, but his value comes from doing the dirty work that allows others to make plays. Round 5 presents an opportunity to add secondary depth with Bishop Fitzgerald from USC at pick 164. Fitzgerald is a developmental safety who brings range on the back end and immediate special teams value. Given his playmaking ability, he might not even last into the middle of day 3, which would make this a tremendous value pick if he's still available. The Bears need to continue stockpiling young defensive backs who can grow into larger roles over time. The 6th round is where you start taking calculated gambles on pure physical traits and upside. Patrick Payton from LSU at pick 203 fits that profile perfectly. A former Florida State transfer standing 6'6" and over 240 pounds, with length and athleticism that can't be taught. He never fully put it together at the collegiate level with consistent production, but in the right developmental system, players like this can become valuable rotational pass rushers. The physical tools are undeniable, and sometimes that's enough to take a late-round flyer. But here's where this entire draft strategy comes together in a way that has me genuinely excited about the Bears' approach. The 7th round, pick 248 overall, represents one of those opportunities where teams can unearth hidden gems that change the trajectory of a roster. Late-round selections are basically free lottery tickets on players with traits that intrigue you, even if the college production or circumstances didn't allow them to showcase it fully. You're looking for raw materials that your coaching staff can develop over time, and that brings us to Eric Gentry from USC. This is the name I want you to remember, Bears fans, because what I'm about to tell you might not sound significant in December, but by next season, we could be talking about this as one of the smartest selections of the entire draft. Gentry is being described by scouts and evaluators as one of the most physically unique linebackers to enter the draft in recent memory. Not just this year, not just in the last couple of years, but in recent memory period. When you hear that kind of language about a prospect, your ears should perk up immediately. Physically unique means he possesses a combination of size, speed, length, or athleticism that separates him from the standard linebacker profile. These are the kinds of traits that defensive coordinators dream about because they open up schematic possibilities that weren't available before. You can deploy players like this in multiple ways, move them around the formation, create matchup problems for opposing offenses. The Bears' linebacker room could benefit tremendously from adding a developmental prospect with elite physical tools. We have solid starters and depth pieces, but finding that next-generation linebacker who can cover running backs and tight ends while also providing run support is increasingly valuable in today's NFL. Offenses are getting more creative with personnel groupments and formations, which means defenses need versatile defenders who can handle multiple assignments. Gentry in the 7th round represents exactly zero risk with potentially massive upside. If he doesn't pan out, you've used a late-round pick on a special teams contributor. But if he develops even halfway toward his physical potential, you've found a starting caliber linebacker for pennies on the dollar. That's how you build sustained success in this league, by hitting on late-round picks who outperform their draft position and provide value far exceeding their contract cost. The beauty of this entire 7-round strategy is how it addresses both immediate needs and future development. The early picks give you players who can contribute right away at premium positions like offensive tackle and edge rusher. The middle rounds add depth and competition at cornerback, defensive line, and safety. And the late rounds give you high upside developmental prospects who might take a year or two but could become impact players down the line. This is smart roster construction from an organization that's finally operating with a clear plan and vision. Ryan Poles and the scouting department have shown they can identify talent across all rounds of the draft. They're not swinging for home runs with every pick. They're building a complete roster with starter quality players at the top and developmental depth throughout. That's how you sustain excellence over multiple seasons, rather than having one good year followed by regression. So when April rolls around and you're watching the draft, remember the name Eric Gentry when we get to the 7th round. Don't dismiss it as a throwaway pick or some guy who'll never see the field. This could be one of those selections we look back on in 2 years and marvel at how he fell so far, despite having such unique physical tools. The Bears are positioned to come out of this draft significantly better than when they entered it. And that should have every fan excited about where this roster is headed. Now I want to hear from you, Bears Nation. Are you comfortable with the Bears using a first-round pick on an offensive lineman like Lomu, or would you prefer they go in a different direction? Does taking a physically unique linebacker like Eric Gentry in the 7th round excite you as a potential steal? What positions do you think should be the absolute priority in this draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to know how you see this draft playing out. And if you're serious about staying on top of every Bears development, every draft update, and every piece of insider analysis, you need to subscribe to Bears News Fan Report right now. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our community of dedicated Bears fans who demand the best coverage. We're bringing you daily content that goes deeper than anyone else, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Bear down.